Yeah, Thomas Bain had lots of activity on roads. Apart from that bridge that we crossed now, this pass is still exactly as it was originally built by Thomas Bain. In this series, I ride the Big Three to commemorate the extraordinary legacy of Thomas Bain, master road builder in South Africa. This is the spectacular Swartberg Pass, the challenging Baviaanskloof, and the beautiful Prince Alfred's Pass. It takes me on a journey of more than 2,200 kilometers from Cape Town all the way to Port Elizabeth and back. Thanks for joining me on this experience and to share the views. Welcome back to Werner's View. Oh, what a lovely night here in Knysna. Starting off now with a cloudy morning. So yesterday it was quite hot when I arrived in Knysna. Sun was shining. Yeah, so if you want to see how I ended up in Knysna, please have a look at my previous video where I rode the beautiful Prince Alfred's Pass all the way from Homtini to Knysna. That of course is one of the big three passes or roads that I wanted to ride, built by Thomas Bain, and that is why I'm calling this series Riding the Big Three. Now we are getting towards the end of this series now, and I have now ridden all the big three. Of course the first one was the Swartberg Pass, probably Thomas Bain's masterpiece, and then a few trips back riding through the whole of the Baviaanskloof. Yeah, seems like I'm going to have a bit of a headwind today. And then of course in the previous video I rode the Prince Alfred's Pass, which is the longest public accessible pass in the country at more than 68 kilometers, a continuous pass with lots of variations. I mean, you start there almost in the Karoo and then end up in the Knysna forest. That was special. Welcome back to the channel. I still need to get back to Cape Town, so I'm gonna still take you with me and visit a few interesting places. But I can feel the air is a bit chilly, so I think I'm gonna make a stop immediately and just pull out my rain jacket, which is also acting like a windbreaker. So let me just find a place to stop to quickly put that on. It's a bit better. Just a bit of a chill in the air. There was actually a few raindrops earlier this morning, but I do not expect rain on the road today. But I must say, the clouds look a bit ominous. But we are here on the eastern side of Knysna, so we will ride through the town and also alongside the beautiful Knysna Lagoon. But what is the end destination for the trip today? Well, I'm of course heading in a westerly direction, and the final stop for today will be the town of Mossel Bay. From Knysna you can take the N2 as the shortest route to Mossel Bay, but you know me, I'm not going to take the shortest route. I want to take a few more of the back roads, so I'm going to head a little bit back into the forest areas of Knysna. So the first town I will pass is Rheenendal, which is only 25 kilometers from here, and from Rheenendal we start the Seven Passes Road, which is yet again another important road that was built by Thomas Bain, and I will talk a little bit more about it once I get there. I'm of course doing this series, like all series before, with my trusted Honda CRF 300 Rally. This bike has proven itself now on this series of trips. I checked yesterday, I've already done more than 1,600 kilometers over probably some of the roughest road you can take. I mean, the roughest road most definitely was the one going down to Hoekwil in the hell. That was a very, very exciting ride, so please go and have a look if you want to see my trip down to the hell a little bit earlier in this series. And I would say the second roughest was probably a few stretches of the Baviaanskloof. But it tested the bike and it tested my abilities as a rider quite a bit. But we made it through safely, and I didn't expect to have that much rough roads ahead today, but let's see. I've never ridden the Seven Passes road, so let's see how that looks. Oh, look at this beautiful St. George's Anglican Church here in Knysna. This is a small chapel, the main church is there at the back. Oh, beautiful. We are now in the main street of Knysna, which is also the N2 highway. So Knysna is now the one town where the N2 really squeezes through the town centre. That is a war memorial for both the First and the Second World War. This is the beautiful, beautiful Knysna Lagoon. The heads where it connects with the sea is there in the distance. You will not be able to see it from here. But what a beautiful sight this is. Okay, so I've made it now to the Rheenendal road that turns off the N2. So this is part of the very small part of N2 riding I will do today. So I will mostly try and stay off the N2 and take the back roads. Yeah, I've not mentioned it, I think, in any of my trips so far on this series, that please note that every road I take or every route I take, I do put a map or a link to a map in the video description. So it's simply a Google Maps mapped route that you can follow the link, copy and paste it to the browser, and you will see where I rode. If you're interested to go and find those places as well, you should be able to locate it exactly on that map route. Yeah, a few raindrops are forming on my visor, but I hope it will only be light, if at all. Yep. Suddenly it starts to rain a bit harder. Now I'm glad I put on my rain jacket. We are now very close to Rheenendal. Rheenendal is simply a rural community here close to Knysna. They say if you're looking for peace and tranquility, Rheenendal is your place. In a beautiful, beautiful area. Yeah, this is the entrance to Rheenendal, but we are just riding past. And it is now where the Seven Passes road starts. Maybe the Rheenendal road was also part of the Seven Passes road, but I would take the start of a dirt road as the official start of the Seven Passes road. So who built the Seven Passes road? You guessed it, Thomas Bain. Thomas Bain in the 1880s also built this road, and it was a very important road because this was the main road linking George with Knysna, and there's a few gorges that had to be crossed, so that's why you couldn't build a road closer to the sea. And yeah, it remained the main road and basically the only road between George and Knysna for 70 years until the N2 was built that passes there at Wilderness. And we immediately jump into the Homtini Pass, which is a 5-kilometer pass, and this was apparently the most difficult part of the road for Bain to build. So I get the feeling that the Seven Passes road was not the most difficult, of course, road that he ever built, because even the Homtini Pass apparently is not too hectic, but it is 5 kilometers long, and now we are riding it in the rain. Apparently you get to a hairpin bend which then takes you into the forest, so let's see. Yeah, you must be careful, the turns are a bit tight. So I don't know which hairpin bend, but this is a hairpin bend. It's certainly foresty along the side of the road. Yeah, you can see the forest over there. Oh, I hope you can see it. Maybe there's too much water on the lens of the camera. Yeah, but here you can see the forest beautifully. Yo, it's a bit of a shame that it is raining at the moment, but it is thick and lush. Yeah. Now the Homtini Pass is certainly a pass that you can take if you want to see the forest. Yeah. We are certainly descending quite a bit, because the Homtini Pass crosses the Homtini River. So Homtini is the name of this area. So Homtini apparently is a Khoisan word referring to difficult passage, and this is apparently due to the difficulty they had to take their cattle from inland to the coastal areas. I can imagine that getting anything passing through this forest must be difficult, and if you then have like a deep ravine and valley that you also need to cross, it's even more difficult. Yeah, here it says the Passes Road, Homtini Pass. Yeah, built in 1882. Yeah, so the 1880s was the time when Thomas Bain built the Seven Passes Road. Now, it seems 7 passes is not quite accurate. Apparently there's 8 passes, but I get the sense that it's difficult maybe to classify what is a pass and what not. But it seems strictly there are 8 passes on the 7 Passes Road. A beautiful little bridge. Apparently only apart from that bridge that we crossed now, this pass is still exactly as it was originally built by Thomas Bain. So I think the bridge was just upgraded a bit later. Interesting. Yeah, Thomas Bain had lots of activity on roads, and there's so many important roads that bears his name. Yeah, now we are climbing up from the Homtini River. Yeah, there's another very tight hairpin bend coming here in front. Now the forest is certainly very thick here. Beautiful. Yeah, this is the Homtini Pass. I think we might be close to the end of the pass, although it is still climbing a little bit. Oop, dodging a bit of tree hanging over the road. Yeah, today is already my 8th day on the road. It is by far the longest series of trips that I've ever done on Vander's View. I will only get home tomorrow on the 9th day of this trip. But what a joy it was, yeah. And I'm so much looking forward to a few more beautiful places that we will still see today and tomorrow. Well, I'm now continuing with the Seven Passes Road. The next town on the route is the important town of Karatara. So Karatara has got an interesting history, and I will talk a bit about it. I also want to go and have a look at the church, the Dutch Reformed Church in Karatara. It is really a town in the heart of the Knysna forest, and of course the Knysna forest yeah, it's intermixed with plantations and indigenous forests. So we are seeing pockets, but we're also seeing areas where deforestation has happened probably a long time ago. Now this road to Karatara is simply beautiful, though it is a bit difficult to see through the rain. Yeah, beautiful fields, lots of farming activity. I also rode now through obvious forestry activities. Yeah, we are now entering the Karatara Pass. This is simply the road that takes us to Karatara. There seems to be one or two tight bends ahead. But what a lovely road this part of the Seven Passes road is. This is really a joy to ride. Yeah, we now made it down to the river. Just have a bit of a look. Yeah, it's more quiet down in the valley. The moment you go up, there's a little bit of wind. So what is the name of this river? Yeah, it is simply named the Karatara River. So this area is Karatara country. So this is the turn into Bosbo Street now. Directly translated to English, it simply means Forestry Street. So everything here is to do with forestry. Now I checked a little bit on the history of Karatara. I could not find much. And one thing that I'm a bit unsure about is exactly when this community started. Of course, there are reports going back to even as far back as 1878 there was some settlement. But I think what Karatara is most known for is in 1939 a law was passed that unregulated, say, cutting down of trees and harvesting wood from the forest is not allowed anymore. And that impacted the livelihood of a lot of woodcutters. There's some renovation happening here, but neat little houses. And then suddenly with this law, many woodcutters were almost immediately out of work and effectively homeless, and Karatara is the place where they were settled. And yeah, so unfortunately Karatara has a bit of a connection with poverty and so on, and hardship for the people that work in the forest. But today it is a lively community, and it's actually quite a pleasant town to just ride through. What is quite characteristic about Karatara is the regular layout of the streets. This is a hall. This is probably the town hall. It's called the Protea Hall. And it was built in 1943. This is a likely part of the development of Karatara for the community that was settled here. Yeah, 1943. I couldn't see so well through the visor. But what a neat little town. Even a relaxed dog lying there in front. Let's continue. Oh, now the dog is coming. I hope this doesn't mean trouble. Hey, hey, hey. Yeah, so the relaxed dog is in fact not so relaxed, but also not too bad. Yeah, so there's just another look at the town hall with two side halls. I'm not sure what the buildings are on the side. Maybe this is part of the municipal buildings and so on. But there's the church of Karatara, so let's just make a drive by there. Yeah, so the church will also then not be that old. I assume you can see it's more of a modern structure. There's the Karatara post office. I can only assume that is the school there in the distance. Okay, but let's get back to the Seven Passes Road and continue our trip. The GPS wants to take me left, but I'm going straight. I want the Seven Passes Road and the dirt road specifically. I mean, look at it, the dirt road is starting again. So this tar road is basically just a tar road passing by Karatara, and now we're back on dirt. It's about 35 kilometers or so to Wilderness. There's a few earlier turn-offs that will take you back to the N2, but I'm going to go all the way to Hoekwil and then take the road down. Maybe just to mention, Karatara is built on a plateau here in the forest, and apparently the word Karatara comes from a Kukun word simply meaning horse hill. So yeah, but Karatara, it's actually to me it's a beautiful name. Okay, Hoogekraal Pass. I've not even checked all the names of these small little passes, but this is the Hoogekraal Pass. So we did the Homtini, we did the Karatara Pass. I think we passed one that I don't know the name, but this one is the Hoogekraal Pass. But as you can see, it is small little passes, maybe 2-3 kilometers long and not very steep. No, the Hoogekraal Pass is a revelation. This is beautiful, beautiful. I love the way the road is twisting. Yep, built 1882. The summit is only 225 meters. So you see, these are small passes. So here we are crossing the Hoogekraal River. And there's even a bit of sun coming out now. How pleasant. So now it's probably going to be climbing again. Yeah, so obviously certain parts of the Seven Passes Road is tar, so you have the pockets of tar. Not sure how long this one will continue. Just quickly turned around because I see the sign here, Woodville Big Tree, 600 meters, so let's just go and have a look. It might be a nice place to also make a bit of a stop for a leg stretch. Certainly beautiful here. Yeah, maybe there's an office here in front. Hallo, hoe gaan dit? Ek het maar daar so insit. Baie dankie hoor.
Net voor 80 meter af, net
Okay.
daaronder is 'n bokkie of daaronder.
Okay, dankie vir die kyk vir die motorfiets ook. Dankie. Yeah, so I made a stop here at the Woodville. It's a nature reserve, but it's part of the Garden Route National Park Wilderness. And this is the Woodville Big Tree. They say it's only about 80 meters down, but there's a lot of places where you can go. There's a bit of a map here, but I'm only going to go and have a look at the big tree. Yeah, it's really a walk into the forest. Just look at the little deer. Hello. Seems to be quite tame. Probably very used to people. It's beautiful. He's not scared of me at all. Yeah, but it is a massive tree. Sure. A beautiful wooden bridge to first cross. Just look at that tree. Wow. Sure, Outeniqua yellowwood. It says the age here is plus minus 800 years. 33 meters high, and the crown width is also 34 meters. So that's the width of the branches at the top. It's sad to think that many of these old giants were probably in the Knysna forest a long time ago and simply cut down. But this is a lot of wood. Yeah. Oh, what a lovely stop at the Woodville Big Tree. Really glorious little walk in the forest, and there's many other trails that one can also take. But simply making a stop here close to Hoekwil, next to the 7 Passes Road, to look at the big tree. Very, very good. But let's continue. I want to make it now to Wilderness, which is another 16 kilometers away. Yeah, so I think we made it now. Yeah, well, we are at the start of the Hoekwil road. I think if you want to stay on the 7 Passes Road, you actually have to make a turn to the right. Yes, George, via the Forest Road, but that is the 7 Passes Road continuing on that side. That is something that I still would like to ride at some point. Yeah, we made it to Hoekwil, but I must say there's not many buildings to see. Here is at least one with beautiful art, but it is a beautiful, beautiful area. Sure. But it is the Hoekwil Pass that will take us now down to Wilderness and the sea. So maybe just a bit of history. Of course, the 7 Passes Road between George and Knysna does not follow close to the sea because there are simply too many deep gorges. At least here in Wilderness there is 2 gorges caused by the Kaimans River as well as the Toos River, and both the Toos River and the Kaimans River actually, yeah, the mouths are here at Wilderness. So it's only after the 7 Passes Road was built in the 1880s that this area and the other side of the gorges could really be accessed quite easily, say by ox wagon and so on. So it's only then that the development then started. So the Hoekwil Road is simply then a road from the 7 Passes Road to get, what is it, on the eastern side of these gorges that, yeah, cuts Wilderness basically off from George. I think this must be the start of the Hoekwil Pass. Yeah, I'm really longing for a coffee. Maybe I can see whether I can spot a place there in Wilderness just to take a bit of a coffee break. Yeah, and up ahead is the sea. Wow. Now, this is a very, very good vantage point to Wilderness. There's even an island in the middle of the lake. Now the Hoekwil Pass, riding it down, it's beautiful. So we have no choice to now ride a little bit again on the N2. That's the only way to cross through Wilderness from this side. And yeah, you can immediately see it is a busy road. but at least it allows a lane into the road here. Yeah, so this is now the N2 road. It was built in 1952, so for about 70 years the Seven Passes road, the further inland, was the only way to travel, and then also the Hoekwil road then to get to this side. But there in the distance you can see the N2 crossing into the Kaimans River Gorge. Yeah, but the sea is beautiful here. Yeah. I'm not quite sure when the town of Wilderness was established, but it of course only really happened, the development of this area, after the Seven Passes road was built. But the name Wilderness, at least we know, comes from an Englishman with the name of George Bennett. He bought a plot of land here at the mouth of the Toos River, and he called that farm the Wilderness, and the name stuck, and that is why this whole area is called Wilderness today. But you can see, I mean, the houses are built amongst the jungle almost, so I can understand. So here is the Toos River, the Tow River mouth, so it doesn't flow into the sea often, it seems. Oh, there it is. Not really going into the sea. But this is the first major river crossing that you had to cross from this side to get to Wilderness. Surely I must be able to get some coffee here somewhere. Make a stop here. Well, it looks so lovely here at the Blue Olive in Wilderness that I decided, let's have a sit down and enjoy my coffee here outside. I'm also ordering a bit of breakfast because I realized I'm a bit hungry. I had a bit of muesli very early on, but some French toast sounds very good, so I will enjoy this now. But my cappuccino is already here. So this is my cappuccino, looking very welcome. I was actually looking forward to some coffee. Look, how decadent is this? French toast with syrup and crispy bacon. Just look at it. Yo, even a bit of cream with this. I'm gonna enjoy this. The Blue Olive. What a lovely place to have a coffee. Okay, seems like I can go. So I was served there by MJ. Very friendly, fantastic French toast, crispy bacon, syrup. How decadent does that sound, huh? We just get back onto the N2. This road is so busy. Yeah, and while I was eating my breakfast, Smitty came over. Hi Smitty, thanks for the chat. He says he's watching Van's View and he recognized me sitting there, so had a lovely chat. Thank you very much, Smitty. He told me about his bike that he's got. He's got a 650 Dakar. Sure. I'll have to go and check out what that bike looks like, but it sounds impressive. And he says he loves his bike as well. And he talked a bit about some of the roads that he's ridden. So, Smitty, of course, you mentioned also that place outside of Still Bay is, of course, Vermaaklikheid. I don't know if you know, but I have ridden Vermaaklikheid in one of my earlier videos, so if you want to go and have a check or a look at it, please go. But yeah, Smitty, I appreciate your chat. Thank you very much for following my travels on Van's View. And now we are riding up, well, this cliff area here. I don't know if this is known as the Kaimans Pass, but of course this is the part of the road that probably was the most difficult to build when the N2 was built here at Wilderness. Yeah, but the views from here is simply spectacular, but it's a bit tricky now with the road works. I have to keep my eye on the road, because when the Seven Passes road was built, construction of a road along this coast was probably deemed a bit too difficult from an engineering perspective. But once this road has been connected to George, I suppose it made a huge difference in terms of travel time from George to not only Wilderness but down the coast towards Knysna and beyond. But this Kaimans River Gorge is simply beautiful. You cannot view it so easily from here, but there's also a famous train bridge on that side. Unfortunately we cannot see it now, and I cannot make a stop really. But yeah, as I said, Wilderness is a bit cut off from the western side of these gorges by both the Kaimans River and the Toes River. Both of them have their mouths basically next to each other here in Wilderness, but it also results in wonderful wetlands and lakes in this area. So Wilderness is simply spectacular. I mean, you can just see the vegetation here on both sides of this road. And look at those nice houses there on the opposite side of the Kaimans River. The only way to get there is by boat. So if you want to stay in one of those houses, you have to row across the river. As mentioned, the end destination for today is the town of Mossel Bay, and that is only about 60 kilometers or so away, but that is if you stay on the N2. But I'm going to ride as little as possible on the N2. I have to take it a bit now up to George, but then I'm going to get off the N2 and back onto the R102. Now, I don't know if you will recall, the R102 was also the road that I took out of Port Elizabeth. And in Port Elizabeth, that is known as Cape Road. So the R102 is, of course, the main road that connected Port Elizabeth and Cape Town before the N2 was built. So I'm going to get back onto the R102, but I need to catch up with the R102 by turning into George, because of course in the past, well, and still today, the R102 ran straight through George. Yeah, so although the GPS wants me to go straight on the N2, I'm just taking the turn off or the exit ramp here to George, to York Street, which is of course also the main street of George. But maybe just a little bit of information and history about George. So George is the second largest town or city in the Western Cape, of course, after Cape Town, and it's almost exactly halfway between Cape Town and Port Elizabeth. Now it's situated here in the Garden Route, the Southern Cape, and yeah, certainly one of the most beautiful places you can stay. The name George has got a strong English history, and although there was a settlement here since 1777, the name of the town of George was given on the 23rd of April 1811 on St. George's Day, and it was named after King George III, which was the reigning monarch at the time. This main street of York is then also named after the son of King George III, who was Prince Frederick, the Duke of York. So a very strong English influence in history. Yeah, this is the R102, so it's the very same road that we took out of Port Elizabeth, although we are now 450 kilometers down the road. I think this will just be the more pleasant ride. Yeah, I find the links to so many places to English history quite interesting in South Africa. Of course, the Dutch colonized South Africa first, but in the turn of the 18th century, in the early 1800s, the British defeated the Dutch. I cannot remember now if it's 1802 or 1806, but since that time the British ruled, and before that time the governors of the Cape and so on were mainly Dutch people, but after that it became English, and that is why towns like George and so on, which is established after 1806, typically will have English connections. And of course many of the towns that we rode through in this series so far in the Karoo that were established during the 1800s and later in the 1800s have a strong English history, and certainly Queen Victoria was reigning towards the end of the 1800s, and many places are referring to Queen Victoria. You can see all the way across Mossel Bay, with the town of Mossel Bay there on the furthest edge of the bay. We will end this trip there, so we still need to ride around this whole bay. No, this R102, I cannot remember ever driving this, certainly not ridden it with a motorcycle. So this is a beautiful road here. And now the N2 is just here next to the R102. But just look how quiet this road is and how scenic. I'm enjoying it immensely. It's almost as if I've got a road of my own. All the other people can ride on the N2. I'll take this road for myself. We are crossing over the Grootbrak River here. Yeah, so this is the busy town of Hartenbos. Yeah, busy on a Saturday morning. And I said Hartenbos has got a special significance because you see Laerskool Hartenbos, or Hartenbos Primary School. This is the place where I started school in Sub A, or today is known as Grade 1. So both Sub A and Sub B. I did in one of these classrooms a very long time ago. Hartenbos was established right from the beginning as a holiday destination, and it was actually established by the so-called Afrikaanse Taal en Kultuurvereniging, or known as the ATKV. Let me make a turn to the left here. You will see a lot of these asbestos or wooden houses here, and there's a very specific reason for this. So when the ATKV established this place, you could lease permanently a plot here as a vacation, well, where you can put up or build a vacation home, but the one condition was that you cannot build a brick structure. You must only build asbestos or wood or so. So that's why you see many of these asbestos houses, but there's also some wood. But these days you do see some brick houses. But yeah, this takes me back as a small boy, where my grandmother also had one of these houses. I cannot remember which one it is. And we had many wonderful holiday experiences. So I can fully understand why people are fond of Hartenbos. Small narrow streets here, just go up this way. But yeah, that condition fell away in 1994 when people were allowed to outright buy the plots, and they could build houses also from brick. So these days you will see some of the brick, but these asbestos ones, they are the original ones. Were established here since 1936, so some of them can be quite old. I don't know, can you feel the holiday atmosphere? I can certainly feel it, even though it's not summer yet. Come December, this place fills up to the brink. There's a super tube. I can remember these super tubes were here even when I was a child. Okay, back onto the R102. So we are still on track. But yeah, this is now quite a business district with all kinds of businesses. Maybe the industrial area also of Mossel Bay. So we made the turn into George Road here in Mossel Bay. Yeah, so Mossel Bay is quite an old town, and I think one of the most significant things about Mossel Bay is that it is here in Mossel Bay where the first European set foot in South Africa, when the seafarers explored, and that was of course Bartholomew Diaz from Portugal. We even know the exact date. He set foot here on 3 February 1488. Yeah, that is long ago. But although he set foot here, he stayed for a very short time because the indigenous people started throwing stones and he left in a hurry. So it was not a very welcome setting of foot here in Mossel Bay. But then a few years later, in 1497, the other famous Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama also came. He was a bit more successful with his interactions with the local people, and he successfully bartered cattle with the local people, and that is regarded as, well, the first commercial transaction between Europeans and indigenous people. 1497. Yeah, beautiful down here. Yeah. But yeah, since 1501 there's been a tree here where the seafarers left letters to each other, and that became known as the post office tree. That was an effective system for them to communicate with each other. And later on, a post office in the form of a boot was erected because they left post originally in a boot that they suspended from a tree. So that became known as the post office tree, and that is commemorated today with a post office in the shape of a boot. So that is where I just want to make a quick stop. But we are now very much entering the central parts of Mossel Bay. Not sure how close I can come to this post office tree. Apparently it is down here. The boot was originally suspended from a milkwood tree. Now, I cannot imagine that milkwood tree is still in existence. Here is a museum. This is the Diaz Museum. But I'm not seeing the post office tree. But it's probably part of that museum setup. But I'm going to continue riding through Mossel Bay because I want to get to the point, or the Cape St. Blaise cave and lighthouse. So let's make our way there. I am a bit fascinated by this building, so you just see what I can see if I ride past slowly. Looks like a church. Oh, this is the Mother Church. Oh, this is quite a unique structure. This is the Mother Church of the Dutch Reformed Church in Mossel Bay. So there's also a church, so I'm not sure. It looks like it's part of the same complex. Maybe this is the first church and maybe that's the second church. The first one is actually, well, it's in fact much more impressive. Oh, now that is now interesting. What a find. I didn't research this a bit, but this is now a very interesting find. Let's continue. I really like the atmosphere. I like the old world charm feeling that you still get. I mean, look at this church. Natural stone church. Oh, what church is this? St. Peter's. It seems like this might be a Catholic. Sure. Oh, Mossel Bay is a neat little town. Yeah. Look at this house. I love the stone buildings. It's beautiful. Yeah. Look at this one. It's the high school, built in 1909. How beautiful here, right here at the point. Sure. Ah, there is the Cape St. Blaise cave. Yeah, what a prominent cave. Let's see if I can just ride up here. Yeah, so I made a stop here at the Cape St. Blaise cave. Friendly Candice there in the car, I just spoke to her. She said no problem. She will just watch my motorcycle while I have a quick look at the cave. But this is an impressive structure, so yeah, have a look with me. So it's quite a tall opening. Yeah, and apparently a lot of important archaeological discoveries were made from the sediment and early inhabitants of this cave. So it's quite a beautiful walkway up here. There's some display boards here about the whales that you can probably see from here. But just look at this cave. It's got such a perfect vantage point, because if you now look at the view back, it is simply spectacular. Sure. Well, this now brings me to the end of this trip, all the way there from Knysna to Mossel Bay. What a ride, what a ride. I mean, taking the 7 passes road, riding through Rheenendal, Karatara. Yes, a bit of a wet start, but now the weather has turned perfect. Yeah, and then lovely stop there at the Blue Olive there at in Wilderness for the breakfast. And yeah, then continuing the ride, going back a little bit in my childhood memory to Hartenbos, and now finally ending up here in beautiful Mossel Bay. What an interesting place with a lot of history. And yeah, I think it's just interesting ending in this cave. So yeah, if you enjoyed this trip, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I'm of course continuing my next leg of my journey straight away here from Mossel Bay. So I will catch up with you in the next video. Keep well and bye bye.